Oh, that's honestly 9 hours. That's kind of fucking wild, I'm gonna be honest. Sleeping that much? I mean, I jealous, bro. I wish.
I would say try it. It's just
It's not even that like I would like to like just stay asleep longer. It's that like after 6 or 7 hours, I just like ding. I'm like, let's go. No,
really
not me. And so my cat was like, "Oh, you talking to me?" uh, I can't sleep more than like 7 hours physically. Like my body just does not let me. Like the moment 7 hours hits my body asleep, it just wakes up. No matter what time it is. It's like, let's go. So,
interesting. I think there's a big biological factor in it,
mhm.
but I don't know. At least me personally is just like I'm sure if I pushed it to 10 hours, my body would be like no,
Mhm.
but 9 hours, it's my body says okay. Like
Yeah, everybody's
I
different for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so I've been really focusing on sleep and trying to maximize that when it comes to all the different things with it. Like blackout curtains are a scam. I don't know.
Really?
Like if you work the night shifts, you really learn how blackout curtains are a scam because there's so much light that still comes in that window. Like sure, it blocks off like what the little square in front of you, but all the sides there's all that light coming out. And so what I had to do when I was working night shifts before is I literally had cardboard. I put duct tape on the edges, so when I put that cardboard in the window, the duct tape would kind of seal up the edges. But now there's these cool things where literally this is just fabric, and you can just Velcro it right there, and it'll cover it up nice. And then you can just take it, rip it down, and it'll cover up pretty well.
Nice.
But yeah, I got a lot of things for sleep. I got my box fan for my white noise. I got my black. I like to keep the temperature cool. Sleep's important for health.
Are you sleeping in the optimal sleep temperatures? Like I think it's like 64 degrees to 68 degrees? Am I tripping? So like I have the house set to 66. Yep.
Like I try to aim for that, but there's a few problems. First of all, I'm on the second floor in my house, so heat
Mm,
rises, right? And so whatever it's saying the temperature is down there, it's different up here. Second of all, I have a roommate who likes it warmer, and so it's kind of hard to fight that. We just normally keep it at 69, but I'll try to uh, mess with that depending on like in the winter I'll close my vents so the heat isn't blaring. I'll open windows at times. I'll try to do what I can to get cooler because I really like cool. Like I sleep way better.
yeah. Everybody actually does when it's cooler because it's kind of crazy. I didn't believe it for a long time. And I used to get really terrible sleep and I didn't know why. And then I had that roommate, John. He's like, he moved in. He's like, whoa, dude, 72? He's like, this is crazy. We shouldn't be living in this. And I was like, what? Seems fine to me. He's like, no, 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 no. And he drops it down to 65. And I was like, what are you doing? You freaking psycho. And he's like, no, that's the optimal sleeping temperature. He's like, at least have it that while we're asleep. So set on a timer to keep it at that while we're in bed. And I was like, that's so cold. He's like, no, trust me. And I like argued with him, and then he pulled it out to studies, and he's like, "Here, this is the optimal sleeping temperature. If you want your muscles to recover, you need colder temperatures at night." And I was like, "Fine, we'll try it." So I switched it, dude. Best sleep I ever got, and I was like, "All right, shit, you win." So
Yeah, it's true. I've noticed it. It's good. Cooler weather. You sleep really nice.
just good for the body. Kind of this. If you think about it, it kind of goes hand in hand with like cold showers. Like which I haven't been doing. I need to do. There's just water doesn't get cold at this place. It got cold in my other place, but here it doesn't really get cold. So like, still like it'll get cold for a second, then it'll be lukewarm, and I'm like, damn it, this is scary. I'm not even miserable. Does it get really cold over there?
Well, in the winter, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
In the summer, it's nice. It's still like brisk though. I mean, the water will always be brisk.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Just try it. I haven't done cold showers in forever. I need them.
I do it every morning. Every morning, wake up, cold shower.
Bro, fucking wish. That'd be the tits. Don't look at me, Smokes. He's just sitting there trying to make eye contact. On the
Look at
windowsill.
me.
Look at me. No, dude. Um, I was actually gonna ask you because we've been reading a lot more. Well, more than we were at the beginning of the year. Thank God. Um, which is really good. I finished 2 books this week. Uh, Psychology of Money and 48 Laws of Power. And oh my gosh, I was gonna ask because have you listened to any of Alan Watts' talks?
I've heard clips and segments of them, but I haven't probably listened to full ones now.
Yeah, I mean they definitely clip up his talks in the EDM space at least. Like you'll hear a lot of
Oh, sure. Yeah.
his talks in EDM. Um, there's a because a lot of his stuff he has books. I haven't bought any of his books. I bought a lot of the audiobooks where he speaks, where they're just clipped up talks from him. Bro, this guy, because that's what I've been listening to alongside of 48 Laws of Power. Because I told you, I gotta take breaks from that book, the 48 Laws of Power. And so my breaks are Alan Watts, because it's so much more like loving, kind, and peaceful instead of like really fucking dark. He has this book, an audiobook. It's called You're It. And I think it's a total of 12 hours long. I'd have to double check. Um, it's so good. Like, I don't know if you listen to audiobooks. I was going to ask you if you do listen to audiobooks at all. And if you do, because I wouldn't read a physical copy of this. I would only listen to it if I were you.
Hmm.
So,
I don't really have time where I just sit and listen to things,
mhm.
which would be nice. I mean, I think that's a really good time where you could kind of think and reflect and meditate in a way and listen to a audiobook. But personally, I'm always more engaged with things. So
Mhm.
I don't really do audiobooks. I'll listen to music while I'm doing things, but I don't know.
When I'm over there, I'm going to play chapter 5 for you. He's very
Okay.
engaging. Because when he's giving these talks that you're listening to, he's giving them to an audience. It's not like just him narrating like the book, like a lot of audiobooks. So, You're It is a compilation. His son so You're It is was recorded in the 50s and 60s, I believe, of him speaking to groups of people, and his son just recorded what he'd say, and he kept all of these recordings and he compiled them into books, into audiobooks, and posted them everywhere. And so you can get these speeches, and it's they're really good because he's like really engaging with the audience. He's very like popping jokes and like he's fun. And so it's kind of like a podcast. It's kind of like listening to a podcast instead of watching a podcast. But instead of like person talking to like one person, it's one person talking to like an audience. And so it's interesting. You mostly just like hear people laughing and whatever from like the other side. They're not like talking or like talking back or anything, but he's really well spoken. Really, really, really well spoken. I mean, the man's a genius. But yeah, if you had listened to audiobooks, I would have tried to recommend this one to you because it's a banger, dude.
Yeah. I used to.
Used to.
I mean, I could always probably throw one on, and I got to get myself into giving myself time. I think everyone could use time to just, whether even with their occupied with something, maybe you're cleaning or something. I feel like you could always occupy your mind because it's not like that task requires much mental input, and so
Mm-hmm.
you could somewhat meditate in a way as you do some task that doesn't require your mind. So I probably could implement that more. I want to start brainstorming more and thinking more and giving myself time for stuff like that. So I'll dive into it.
I was gonna say, I just
Maybe.
realized my mug that I'm drinking from. You can't read it because it'll be backwards, but it says Alan Watts is my homeboy.
It's right side up. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, son of
Yeah.
three pickles.
Gosh, where did you get that online?
My girl got it for me because she knows I love
Oh,
Alan Watts. She got it for
that's
me
nice.
2 years ago. No, a year ago. Yeah, a little over a year ago. She got it for my birthday, which I was like, dude, honestly, she's probably the most creative gift giver ever. She pays attention to detail so well, and so I would listen to all of these Alan Watts. I'm like, oh man, Alan Watts, such a genius, such a genius. And on my birthday, I'm like, I wonder what this girl would ever give me. And she shows up with this mug. Alan Watts is my homeboy, and I was like, bro, like, that's the dopest thing in the world.
That's sweet.
So it's I freaking love him. I've listened. He's probably so. Here's the thing. He's and I like when I say yeah, he's my favorite speaker in the world. He's hands down my favorite speaker. Like if you were to take all those other people, Alex Ramosi, Rob Deerdeck, Ed Milet, Chris Williamson, all those people, Andrew Tate, all these people, Alan Watts is hands down my favorite speaker. Just because he's so much more intelligent than all of them. Granted, he wasn't super, like, he wasn't crazy successful. He wasn't, like, rich or anything. He was a very, like, mild-mannered dude. He was just so articulate and so well-spoken and incredibly intelligent. Like, you want a guy that'll expand your vocabulary. Alan Watts is the dude. He's the dude that you're like, well, okay, little challenge, let's do this. But you can always understand him by the way he frames everything. So it's nice. It's different.
I feel like he's not that popular, honestly. In all sense of things, I feel like you would mention his name to the average person and they would have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of his talks were given in like the 50s and 60s.
Sure, yeah, he's definitely a while ago, but
I
yeah.
mean, yeah. He wasn't like super famous or anything and it was very during that time he was trying to talk to a lot of Christians and Catholics about the cohesion and the mix between Eastern spiritual walks and religions and like Western culture. He like showed how they all intermingled and how they were all essentially talking about the same thing. And so for a lot of people during that time, like that was, heresy. That was blasphemy. They're like, no, that's evil. And so there was a lot of people that, hated him, that talked poorly about him without ever actually listening to any of his talks. They're like, oh, he talks about Eastern Hinduism and all these other like spiritual walks in Buddhism. They're like, oh, that's heresy, during that time. So I know my parents kind of have the same view as a lot of other people probably would have when I mentioned Alan Watts. They're like, oh, Alan Watts. I'm like, have you listened to him? They're like, no. I'm like, what's the face for? And they're like, oh, he just talks a lot of blasphemous stuff. I'm like, blasphemous? What? So
I think there's a lot of people, especially, well, I mean, I wouldn't say just back in the day. I mean, today I think it's transformed more of what sensitive topics are, but people just aren't open to ideas.
mhm.
They like to believe what they believe, and if anyone else disagrees, then. But no, I mean, in reality, it's just I don't know. You got to think of it. We each have our walk of life, and just because someone walks differently, they're wrong. It's like you got to understand, like they're going through a same experience as you are, maybe in a different way. I mean, I like to think of like you and me are pretty different, like religious view wise and stuff. But honestly,
Mhm.
we could have a conversation, and a lot of things we bring up, we're basically the same way, different words, same definitions, different words, so it's kind of cool when you open up your mind and accept that we're all on the same walk of life, and everyone is on their spiritual journey, whether you call them Allah or God, it's the same. Yeah.
That's what I love about it is like, you know, in Islamic culture they call it Allah, and like Christian culture they call it God. Atheists call it energy, but nobody's denying its existence. Like, they're all recognizing that it's there in some form or another. Like, we're just calling it different names and chastising each other because we're using the name that we're not using. And I think that's like, I don't know, to me that means like so much more. It's like, yo, we're nobody's denying the existence of this thing. Like, we all believe, whether you're an atheist or a theist, like you believe that there's some sort of like energetic thing that's like really dictating how we exist, or like dictating the molecular structure around us and keeping everything together and flowing through it. Like, whether you want to look at it from quantum mechanics, like you want to look at it from physics, whether you want to look at it from Christianity or like Hinduism, nobody's denying its existence. They're just arguing about the names. And I think that's really cool. I'm like, that's so funny. Like, we're so weird, us humans.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you look at it, like most that's the funny thing though about arguments and debates. I mean, I think I've talked about this in a episode way back when, but like looking at just like working in a jail with a bunch of inmates, is that pod right there's their world, right? And so someone hogs a tablet for too long, that's murder in that pot. You don't do that. That's a big deal for them. And so you expand it to us as humans, it's just like, yeah, we're all disagreeing on what it is when really we're talking about the same thing. And this is just kind of funny. You look at a big picture looking down on it. It's all just funny how we in our little bubbles, what matters to us and
Yeah,
where we put our values, when really taking a step back is uh, the best option to get the best picture.
yeah. I mean, you and I have very different spiritual. I wouldn't even call them super different now. I feel like they're similar in ways. In a lot of ways, they're incredibly similar, like very similar. And I think that we've just learned a lot of like the same rules, just different contexts and different like spaces. And when you look down at like the fundamentals of work and creativity and all of these things, like they're pretty much the same. Like, we understand that like there's a part of life that must be difficult, that must be hard, and you either put it forward or you get it later. And like there's a part of life that's like enjoyable, and you either get it now or you get it later. Actually, that reminds me, did I sent you that talk by Earl Nightingale, right? I think I just sent it to you.
I may have not seen it yet.
Um, already sent it on. I sent it on Insta. Earl Nightingale, another phenomenal speaker like Alan Watts. And how does he frame it? Um, every action you take is either goal achieving or tension relieving. Every action, everything you do is either goal achieving or tension relieving. So before committing to an action, you need to ask yourself, am I goal achieving right now or am I tension relieving? He's like, because if tension relieving will hold you back and goal achieving will propel you forward. And it's okay to be tension relieving. It's okay to have that because you're going to have both. But decide right now if you want it in a conglomerate later so you can spend that time with people you love, or do you want to spend it now alone and then do the goal achieving later? And I think that's like really cool. Is if you do the goal achieving now, you'll have the tension relieving, the space for tension relieving later. Uh, I thought it was so cool. I was like, that's really interesting.
It's true. I mean, looking at people with their different life goals and stuff, there's people that just like will dive into a 9 to 5 job and they're happy with that and they're going to work that until they retire. And then their plan is once they retire, then they could have all that time to do what they
Mm-hmm.
want and such. And so I guess, yeah, it just depends on how you want to spend it and how you want to live it. You want to get there and reach your goals now, or sit back and get them later.
It is kind of beautiful. I really should put that, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a poem or something that I wrote. It's not really a poem, though. I mean, kind of. Nothing rhymes. It's that little piece I wrote about how nature consumes the weak. I should put that in the drive. Because it's basically what it is like, you're either chasing the gazelle. Oh, dude, how did I put it that one day? I think somebody said it and it really inspired me. It's like, it doesn't matter whether you're the lion or the gazelle. When the sun rises, they both start running like hell.
Yeah.
So you could either be the lion or you could be the gazelle.
Running or chasing.
Mm-hmm. This little fucker.
Kind of makes me think of I think it's always easier to chase. I'm just thinking like how people when they're lazy and then they're in their comfort zones, they end up suffering more than those who, you know, were the ones chasing. I like to think of the cow and the buffalo. You heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So when a storm's coming, cows will run away from the storm, and buffalo will run into the storm. Cows will end up spending more time in the storm, suffering more because they're running away from it, and the storm will follow them. While buffalo, they'll run into it, and although they're going to hit it head first and get it the rough of it at first, they'll end up spending less time because they're running away from it. So I think it's kind of like that concept of, if you're going to get it harder at first, but in all reality, you're going to have less of it instead of those who sit in their comfort because they're going to end up suffering longer than you did because you ran right into it,
Mm-hmm.
took the struggle head on.
That is very interesting. I like that. And it's so true. Like, if you face the problem head on, you'll deal with it for a shorter amount of time. And if you don't, if you avoid it for a long time, you suffer for that prolonged, like, you're running from it, like the gazelle. Like, you're running and being in pain for a long time. And then you finally, like, kind of get away from it. Which, even then, like, it's still behind you coming after you. That's terrible. And that's a terrible
Yeah,
feeling, and we face that all
it's
the time.
it's like the cheetah. Once you get it, you got that meal, you're done. Your chase
Mm-hmm.
is over. But that gazelle has to be always like, whether even if it's done running for a while, it still has always be looking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they know the next one's coming.
Yeah.
As in, the lion will only chase when it needs the food.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look around its back.
No, it doesn't. And that's it's like, if you think about it in terms of just life, everyday life, that's such a better feeling. When you hunt and you catch, when you're looking to do something and you do it and you get it and it's over and it's done with. Because, like, think about the prolonged amount of time that you thought, like, oh, I should read this book. I need to read this book. I need to read this book. I need to read. Just in general, like, say, oh, I need to read. I need to read. I need to, like, so you have a book at hand that you're reading. And you spend so long thinking about it, you're suffering in that time. I still haven't read that book. It's been 3 months. Still haven't even read. It's been, I haven't read. Another month goes by. You're dreading it. You're feeling terrible in that, like, pent up crap energy. You're still running from it, like the gazelle. And it's just hurting. It's like internally, like, I need to follow through on that commitment. But then, like, the guy who's like, I need to read this book, and they actively read it, whether it takes them a week or a month, say they take a month to read it. They finish it in that month, they're like, oh, it's nice. I love that book. It's great. So worth it. And they get to move on. Whereas that person is still running and in pain from needing to do the thing and not doing the thing for like 5-6 months. They're like, shit, I still got to read it. Still got to read it. It's like that cow running away from the storm. I got to get away from the storm. I still need to deal with it. I still got to deal with the damn storm. But it's a prolonged suffering. It's like how we used to talk about like working out or like smoking and stuff like that. Like, smoking gives you the pleasure immediately, but then you're suffering in the long run. With working out, you receive the pain first. Like, you have to go through the hard thing first. Yeah, you're a little sore later, but the glory is great. Like, you feel amazing later. It's kind of interesting. It all.
I was gonna say I like to think of it like honestly in a day-to-day basis. I mean, even the person, right when they wake up, what are you doing right when you wake up? You notice there'll be some people that'll wake up and they'll get what they need to get done first, right out of the day, right?
Mhm.
They'll read their book, or they'll, if they need to do chores, they'll get those done, and then the rest of the day they'll leave for themselves to pursue whatever they want to pursue and do what they want to do. As in, you get people that wake up and they'll grab their phone and they'll be on social media for hours. And then at the end of the day, it comes around. A lot of times they don't get done what they want to get done,
And they
and they
feel
have to
terrible.
rush and get done any chores they want to get done, and it's just all a bad experience. And so
Mhm.
that's what I think of.
And if you think about it, the feelings that are invoked, like how you feel when you're like sitting on your phone in the morning, you're like, I gotta do my laundry, gotta do the dishes, whatever, gotta clean up the kitchen, do whatever, and you're sitting on your phone, you have that dread. You've got that like chest and stomach dread of not doing it. Like I gotta do it. Like I'm not doing it right now. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And then you got it. Time comes to where you say you have to go to work. You can't do those chores, and so you leave. And all day you're like, I gotta do those when I get home. I gotta do those when I get home. And you spend all of your like energy at work, and you get home and you're like so tired. Like, man, I really gotta do those things, man. So you start doing them, but you only get like one or two of those things done, and then you're like, it's too late. I gotta make dinner and go to bed. And you make dinner and go to bed. That going to bed unfinished work, it kills you a little on the inside. Whereas like if you wake up, you get it done, it's time to go to work. Let's go. You're done. The dread, there's nothing there. You're just like, I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish. It's in the rearview mirror. Let's move forward. And you feel great. You go to work, whatever. You come home. Yeah, I got the time. I should go to the gym. I should go do something else. You feel good. You feel successful. And you are. You are. You've gotten done what you needed to get done. And so I think those things will either help you grow or they'll make you decay. So like if you feel that dread, that like, oh fuck, I need to do that thing. It's eating you. You can feel it eating you from the inside out. It's eating at your heart. It's like if you get it done, you feel victorious. You get it done in the morning, like, I feel good. Like, yeah. Go to work, have a good day, I can talk to my coworkers and enjoy my time and have fun. And you feel good and it's building you. You feel it in the rearview mirror, it's done. Like those things are accomplished. I've finished. And it's making you grow instead of like pulling you back and holding you back.
I think we've all been there. I mean, there's specific parts of me that are extremely hard and they drag. I mean, there's some things that have been dragging on me for years. Like, I don't know if I shared it, but like when I was a missionary in Brazil, trying to talk to people on the streets, um, it was extremely hard. I think that's one of my weaknesses. But I had this picture in my head, where I would go up to these people and I like maybe there's a bunch of people, sitting at a table in the street. I mean, that's common in Brazil. And so I had this picture in my head where I would just go grab a chair and sit next to them and just talk to them. I'd be able to identify the situation, know exactly what to say, feel comfortable in the situation and treat them like literal family. And that was like ideal in my head. And I never got there. I never got there on the mission. And I still, to an aspect of me, want that when it comes to like influence and such. And it still drags on me. Which brings me to an idea that I've been kind of sitting on for a little bit is like we were talking about how action is the catalyst of motivation. And it kind of goes along those lines. As in, let's say you wanted to get into fitness or health. Um, One idea that I'm thinking about is like, what if you started writing a book about that? Like maybe if you don't even know anything about it, but you just started writing, and the writing triggers the motivation, so you find influence to study and to act and experiment, and so you start developing this book. And so that's kind of been on my mind lately when it comes to influence and talking to people, because that's one thing that's been dragging on me and I want to better in. And so I literally think I'm gonna start writing a book, like maybe titled The Art of Influence or something, and just experimenting with things. And thus maybe it's just the way my mind thinks, but I feel
Mhm.
like if I can organize it to where I could get down a system of talking to people and being an influence and putting that system in the book as I'm practicing it and studying it, I feel like it's just like maybe starts turning the wheels on this thing that's been dragging on me for years.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah. No, that would work. Technically, like that works. Because any sort of action will be the catalyst to your momentum, right? Any sort of action taken will be a catalyst towards momentum. If you think about working out, even though you're starting off, you don't know anything, the best thing you can do is put on your shoes and make some pre workout or something. The moment you do that, you're moving forward. It's like writing about the thing. It's the same thing. You don't know what you're doing, but you're going to go to the gym and you're going to try. And while you're, say you got your pre workout that you bought and you're like, you're mixing it up, I have no clue what I'm going to do in the gym, but I'm just going to go and do. And you start thinking, what could I do? What could I do? Right? Before you even get there, you're thinking, like when you're fresh going, you're like, oh man, you've got your drink, you're committed to you've already committed to the action. You've already taken action forward, so momentum is propelling you. You start thinking, you're like, I can do curls. I've seen videos of people doing curls, I do sit-ups. I used to do those as a kid, you know. I could run on a treadmill. And there you've already got three simple actions that in the fitness industry are like all amazing things. Like they're all great. They will all work. Same thing with like talking to people. You start writing it down, like whatever title you want to give it, like how would I want to make a positive impact on these people? And what would I do? Like dude, I wanted to get into reading. And so I just started writing a lot of my thoughts down way back in the day. And then like one of my thoughts was like, oh, I should read a certain number of books a year. Look at us now. Like
Yeah.
funny how that happened. So yeah.
I think that is a big part of it, is like what's gonna get you thinking. Because essentially that's the first, I mean, on the book I'm kind of working on now, it talks about how, there's a trigger, and then it triggers an idea into a thought, into an action, into a consequence, essentially. And
Hmm.
it's just like all a chain of reaction. So whatever gets you thinking is gonna start that action. And so when it comes to like influence, like a lot of times and that's a big part of it, is identifying what was my barrier when it comes to that. And a lot of it was just kind of doubting of like approaching people, and a lot of aspects in that direction is just, I don't want to be weird. I don't want to come off weird. Like, what the heck do I even say? Going up to a person wanting to make a bigger impact. And like, I feel like there's two sides of it. Sure, like with action comes experience, right? And so I saw this guy listing like over 500 pounds. He was squatting yesterday. And so I just went up to him. I was like, hey, dude, nice.
Yeah.
It's like, I had no idea what to say. I'm like, that's impressive. And it's, so that's just part of it, is just jumping into it.
Hmm.
But I feel like, especially when I'm running into that wall of doubt and not knowing how to go about that, writing about that, and engage, that engages me to really think about it. And so I'm gonna like, oh well, it's not that hard to talk to someone. This is how you talk to someone. Like, so
Hmm. That's
yeah,
amazing. Squatting 500 pounds, yeah, that's a shit ton.
yeah, he was,
You have to give that person props. Like
yeah,
you
seriously.
have to walk up to them and be like, "Hey, that's a lot of weight, dude. Good job."
Well, and then that's just one thing. Like, I want to be able to approach anyone in the gym.
Mhm.
And like the gyms in, I feel like my experiment ground right now, but
Mhm.
essentially anywhere in the world, I want to, like, this whole idea of this book that I'm wanting to start is, I want to be able to walk in a room, and the second I walk into that room has changed.
Mhm.
It's better,
Yeah.
because I walked into that. And so that's the kind of idea I want to create with this book. And it's just, I think the whole art of approaching someone is a different ballgame of itself. Because sure, if someone's lifting heavy, is that an easy way to approach someone? Absolutely. I feel like that's a cheat. You know, I, I could go up to him and say, "Hey, that's cool, good job," like easy. But like someone who's just starting in the gym, someone who's obese, how are you approaching them? What are you
Mhm.
saying to them? And so it's just, I think the whole idea of everything, like how am I approaching anyone? How can I be a positive impact on everyone, even, these new people and even old people that I already know? How am I going to? So that's all the ideas that are rushing through my head that I'm going to start playing with, and I'm excited for it. It's going to be fun.
Hmm. And it all ties back to like thought is the catalyst of action, right? Like
Hmm.
before you even get to action, like you have to think about it. And the more you think about it, the more you're going to do it. Like, let's be honest. Like the more your mind, whatever consumes your mind controls your life. So if making a positive impact on people is consuming your mind, it's going to control your life, and that's what you're going to do. Like if you're thinking like, I want to cheer more people on, or like I want to have a more positive impact, and you continue to like metastasize this thought and like grow on it, then while you're at the gym, you've thought about it for 3 hours on, accident in the morning while you were riding, and now it's still the only thing consuming your mind, and like you have to take action. You have no choice. It's the only thing going through your head, not like anything else, not like work, not projects you're working on. It's like the only thing you're like, I gotta talk to somebody. Shit. So you end up doing it. So,
It goes back to, like, I know in the last podcast I was talking about, like, it's developing that person you want to be in your head, right? And that's the whole idea, the whole concept of writing, a book about it. Is that whole concept is like, I'm going to write a book of who I want to be and lay out the blueprint essentially. And when I go approach someone new, this is what that person does. When they approach someone new, when I approach someone I already know, this is what that person does. And it's that whole concept of just writing it all out, writing that blueprint. And I think it's a really cool, just on the topic of the influence and stuff, it's a really cool skill to have and a really rare skill to have. Um, I had a really cool training at the gym I started personal training at with the owners, and they're really cool guys, and they have this vision of their gym, right? And they're already opening. They already have 2 gyms. They're opening 2 more, and I think they're going to grow pretty big because they just want to be that gym. And essentially, the skill of the whole training they put their staff through was the skill of influence, right? When someone walks in the door, we want that person to feel different than they'd feel in any other gym. And you're the one that's going to make them feel that way.
mhm.
And essentially, they're like, this is a cool skill that we want you guys to start doing, but this is a skill you'll, use in life. And it's so true. I mean, the art of influence, like I said, it's just the power that you could have of walking into a room or being in a room, and that room's different because you're in it. And when you leave that room is different because you're out of that room. I
Mhm.
think it's a really cool idea of something that I really struggle in, but I really want to be better in.
It's actually really funny that you mentioned all of that. All of that is talked about in the 48 Laws of Power in a different context, but a lot of it is the same. He talks about acquiring power. The entire book is about acquiring power. And that's essentially what it is. When you walk into a room and you can strike power into that room and people recognize you and they're excited, they're like, this person's here. I can't wait to talk to this person. It's the excitement, right? Because, like, think about it. There's people in your life that when you saw them, you were so excited to see them because they'd either get your mind going, they'd compliment what you were doing. They're like, hey, you're doing well in these areas, whatever. And you felt like seen, recognized, like in existence around this person. And you felt more alive. And being able to have that effect on people is just going to not only bring more people around you, it's just going to bring more quality of life around you. Like in general, when you're at the gym and you're making a positive impact, like, yes, you're spreading joy, but I love this quote. Shane Koiskin, love is a currency that functions in reverse. So the only way to be wealthy in it is to give more of it away. Like, if you want to feel love, it's that making that positive impact on other people. Like, that's where you feel love. It's not demanding it from your partner or somebody else. I'd be like, hey, I need you to do this so I can feel better. That's bullshit. That's not love. Love is when you get when you give it away. When you're like, hey, you did a good job. This is really good. See that dude squatting the 500 pounds? Like, dude, that's a lot of weight. Good job. He feels loved, and so do you now because you gave it away. You're like, fuck, that felt good. That felt good telling him, right? And I think that's the biggest mark that we miss in today's society is that interaction, that little interaction, just stepping forward, being like, hey, good job. because everybody's behind their phones. Everybody's behind this like virtual existence. And people telling you good job on this virtual thing doesn't feel as good when somebody walks up and is like, hey, that was really cool. Good job. You're like, fuck, thank you. Whereas on the phone, you squat 500 pounds, people are like, oh, nice, bro. Like, holy shit. Wow, you're jacked. You're like, cool. Yeah, thanks. Doesn't feel the
Well,
same.
one or two of those and then a 20 haters.
Yeah.
That's all and that's another thing about being in person is, you got people aren't going to come insult you in person. They're going to
No,
compliment you in person. So it's just a lot healthier environment.
it's funny because when I got that comment the other day, that was one of the first things Kaylee said. She's like, the funny thing about that comment is he would never say that in person. He would never say that like to your face. And I'm like, that is so true.
That reminds me of in Think and Grow Rich, I just read the chapter on basically criticism. And it got me thinking. I even wrote like a blog post about it. It's just the art of giving criticism and the art of receiving criticism. It takes a lot to criticize someone correctly, right? But then receiving it is all in its different own ball game. And I even went to the extent of like, I think we talked about it before, but like when people insult you, the best counteraction to that is basically taking that insult as criticism. So maybe, that guy says you look ugly as F, right? And you comment and he would be shut down and say, you're right. I could probably, lift more. I could probably, wash my hair, brush my hair better or something like that. And that guy's like, what is he going to say to that?
Yeah.
So that was my whole idea on criticism is like, if you master the art of receiving criticism, you basically could take any insult and just turn into like, you know what? I probably could be a little better. Thank you. Thank you for helping with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a kind of cool idea.
Well, you're alchemizing it. You're alchemizing their shitty energy into good energy. You're changing it. So they may come at you with like hateful or angry energy, and you receive it in a good light. I mean, to me, it's essentially the same as like that person leaving that comment. Like if I was the person on the bottom, and like me laughing at it and enjoying the hell out of the comment. It was immediate alchemized. Like it was immediately alchemized. The moment I saw it, I started laughing my ass off. I'm like, God damn, like that's hilarious. But I mean, the way it just probably ties back to number one, the way I just view social media. It's just like it's a cesspool of hate, and the more engagement, the better. So it doesn't matter what it is, like whether it's hate or love, it's a good thing. Or maybe it's a myriad of other views on the comment on just everything you said. It was immediately alchemized into good energy.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's what you got to do.
mm-hmm.
Just take these negative things and transform them. Like, what can I get out of this? What's going to benefit me? And that's the thing is just, I think no matter how they insult you, I think there's a truth behind every statement they make, their insult. Maybe you didn't like your glasses. Maybe you didn't like your hair. There's some truth of why he decided to say that. I mean, maybe he pulled it out of his butt.
Yeah.
But I was just like, for majority of the time, is like, there's something coming out of that. And so like, you know what? Just taking that and transforming it, I think is a good thing. Yeah.
If he doesn't like my glasses, he can suck it. I love these glasses.
Maybe that's how you reply to him and say, you don't like my glasses? I love these.
I should say something like that. I don't know. I think a lot of it too, when it comes to insults, it is not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of how they see the world and interact with the world. So when people come up to you and insult you, if it's not like structured, if it's not actually like, hey, you should probably do this better, where they're actually like trying to give you like corrective criticism, if it's just like, hey, off yourself, like that's literally what the dude said.
Yeah.
It's not a reflection of me at all. Like, and I knew that too when I read that. I was like, wow, he sees the world this way. Like, that's probably something he struggles with, is like those thoughts. And so he had to project it onto me just because something in me made him mad. Just like his hair, was it my hair, my glasses, my teeth? I don't know. Like something about me, it was just like, end it.
Some people, I swear, man.
It was golden. It was a good time. And I think when it comes to giving corrective criticism, there is an art to it. Like there is an actual art to giving corrective criticism, and I am incredibly grateful for the time that I served as a lifeguard back in the day because I took a lot of leadership classes, um, and especially when I was over in the one in Boise, there was one that really stuck with me, and it was um, they talked about helping people grow and giving corrective criticism, and the right way to do it. And I've taught this ever since. I teach it the exact same way, and I will always teach it the same way. It's sandwich it in love. If you want to give criticism, sandwich it in love. Like when you would send me a song, first I picked all the things I loved about it. I was like, man, this is so dope. This is so great. This is so awesome. The only thing I could say is like, change this here, change this here. And if there's any way you can add something like this, but like overall, like it's the most beautiful, it's freaking amazing. Like it's so exciting. And like, this is good and this is good. And like, that's just how I structure things. That's how I will always structure things when I see that it is a masterpiece. These are the little things that I wish were changed about it, but overall I really like it. Like you can receive that in good light and be like, okay, nice, awesome. Let me see if I can play with these things. Maybe not. Maybe I do like this here, but yeah, I can see where this could change. There was no offense you could take to it. It was like, all right, it's great, awesome. And these are the things that like the audience wants to hear. In no light could you be like, fuck you, man. Because like I didn't deliver it to you as in like this song sucks ass, like you could fucking do this better, this sucks, like you would receive that terribly. Like you'd be like, you know what, I'm never sending you a song again.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's an art. It's an art to criticize, and is you got to look at your true intention. Is your true intention to help?
Mhm.
If your true intention is to help, it's like, okay, how am I gonna say this in a way that is gonna? I mean, that's a cool thing about the nutrition coach that I'm taking right now.
Mhm.
It's basically talking about that, and it's just like the goal is to not get an emotional response. I don't want an emotional response, or at least a negative emotional response. Like a positive one's good, but I'm not trying to trigger an emotional response. So you got to think, how am I going to say this in the way that's not going to trigger that emotional response? And I mean, if that's your intention, that's your thought process. But then again, there's a lot of people's intentions, especially when it comes to social media, is I don't think they're really trying to help. Even like maybe I remember when I first started posting content on my fitness page and stuff, I was using sleeves for benching.
Mhm.
And I wasn't benching a lot. I was like benching like maybe 185 or something. I was using sleeves. And the guy comments, he's like, "You're using sleeves for 185? What the heck?" I took extreme offense to that, right? And although it's just like, what was he truly trying to do? Was he truly trying to correct me? Or was it some other intention? And so like if you really want to help someone, you got to think of the way that you should actually say that instead of trying to just say it. Because are you just trying to make it seem like you're better than them? Are you taking out your anger on them? Be a man who lifts up everyone where you go.
Mhm. Making that positive impact. Yeah, when it comes out just as a straight up insult, it's just a reflection of how they view the world. Like it's how they're interacting with the world. When it's an actually like structured criticism, if the guy was like, "Hey, like I see like you're using sleeves on 185, what's up with that?" And you're like, "Hey, like this is right now my max." He would understand. He'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, like that makes sense. Just support structure instead of being like,
Yeah,
what the
that's
hell?"
the thing. It's just like he didn't know that I was just starting off out of my cut, and I had an elbow injury, and so it's like he didn't know all these factors. Instead, he just threw that comment out there for who knows what reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one example of, even the guy who insulted you is like, there's like, what's the motive? What are you
Yeah.
trying to do? Obviously, it's not trying to help someone because that's not gonna get it.
I'm sorry. That's so good. I think it speaks well on the environment of social media. Just like to me, that was like grade A classic comment, like grade A classic hater. Like that's exactly what we should expect. There's stuff like that. if we're facing 98% drifters, like there they are. There's one of them.
Yeah. No, I think it definitely takes. I mean, ideally, you should train up and practice your art of giving criticism and art of receiving it.
Mhm,
Because if you have good ways you give, then whenever you criticize someone, they're going to take that and use it productively.
mhm.
And if you master the art of receiving it, whether it's insults or anything, you're going to take that in the correct way. And so it's just good all the way around about. So I think those are two skills that everyone should try to master.
It's interesting. Now I should say it. I feel like I'm good at giving criticism, but maybe I'm not that good at receiving it. So maybe that is something that like I should work on now that I think about it. 'Cause, yeah, he said that and I immediately just laughed. I was like, ha.
Well, and that's the thing is just like, what are you going to reply to that comment?
Yeah.
And so that's what I was saying. It's just like maybe you could reply and say, "Hey, is it the hair? Is it the glasses? What do you think I can do better?" You know, it's just like turning that into like a productive comment or something. Is like, "Are you having a bad day? Like, do you need my help or something?" I
Did you
mean,
make
maybe he'll
that?
he'll probably take that a wrong way, but just mastering that art is turning any insult into something productive. I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah. Well, even if we get him to comment again, that's engagement.
Sure, but you could do that extremely negatively.
Because like I'm worried that if I do something positive, that he just won't come back. He'll just be like, no, it's you. Because
Probably
to
not.
say that, you've got to be really angry. And I'm like, hey man, come back, say something.
Well, I guess then it comes down to your goal. It's just like,
Yeah.
for example, why isn't our stuff popping off as much as we would want it to? It's just it's intellectual conversations. Does everyone
Yeah.
want that? No, they're going to social media to get that brain numbing
Yeah.
material, and so it's like, do you want to insult him to engage him more and get more stuff, or are we trying to get a positive uh, response out of this?
I definitely want his engagement to start off with. I'll take any fucking battle. I'll
Oh,
take any sword fight.
yeah, you do need to work on your what's the word? Reception of criticism.
Yeah. Oh man.
No, that reminds me of something I was thinking of this week. And in terms of like products and capitalism, it's interesting to think of how it's developed over the years. Like capitalism, it started off like people would supply the product that people would need, right? And then they'll get their income based off of that. And it was a fair, good economy. People get what they need, they pay for it, really good. And then it started turning into, what people want. And then it started turning into people and what can addict people. I've thinking about that, it kind of was an epiphany to me. It's just, when it first of all, I think it may have been the food industry that went there first. It's just like, okay, if we take the fiber out of these carbohydrates, they're actually kind of addicting, and they'll release chemicals in the brain that makes these people eat more. Thus, we could sell this stuff, and we'll get more money off of this. And when it comes to entertainment, it's just like we're not going to give them good entertainment. We're going to give them what pops that dopamine and what gets them keep on coming back for more. And I thought it was just crazy thinking about that because how it's changed. It's changed from what we need to what we're addicted to. So
It is kind of interesting. I think, like I said, like addiction's always been around, but maybe in just different forms.
oh
But
yeah,
you're right, it is a lot heavier now. Like it's how can we get people to engage more with the shitty platform that I mean we're a part of this platform. Like we participate. We have to participate. It's literally the one of the largest chunks of our economy at this point. So like if you don't participate, like you're going to be left behind. And it does just come down to like what space do you want to participate in, but like it is kind of funny that it is based it kind of follows suit of the food industry. It's like what gets people addicted more, like what gets them to like latch on more. To me it's like same thing as Napoleon Hill when he was talking about drifters have always been around, they've always been there, whether they're enjoying like the chariot race that the emperor put on, just staring at that and watching the gladiators fight and laughing and saying, "Oh, that pussy, I could have kicked his ass," even though you're just like a just fat dude who sells like trinkets. They've always kind of been there.
No, it's kind of crazy the world we live in, you know. Just like how we'll talk about addictions a lot on this and talk bad on social media when we're the ones posting content on social media. And I mean, the biggest one of the funny things I'm thinking about is I was experimenting with there's a lot of content to where they have like podcast or something on one half of the screen, on the other half of the screen they'll have some video game playing, right? So they'll have like their sound and then their visual, and it's just completely engaging or whatever, right, to that mind. And what's funny is when I was experimenting with that, I clipped a section of us talking about how dopamine and how we get triggered with the mind. Some guy commented on that and was like, this is kind of weird that you're posting this when that's what you're talking about against this. And I'm like, well, what options do we have? How else am I going to reach these people that need this type of engagement? And it's just kind of funny the weird scenario we're in, to where it's like when people spend most of their time on social media and we're trying to get this information and talk about this stuff and get people to hear about it, how else are we going to do it? We have to engage in it now, and we're trapped. It's a odd circle of entrapment there. You have to do it.
It's an odd consumerism approach, but it works. I mean, it's kind of the same in every space the more I think about it. Like even in the personal trainer space, like you'll have a lot of people that come in and you'll train them for a month or two and then they'll be gone. And that'll be a lot of like clients. And the goal is to get as many of them to stay as you possibly can, but the majority of people are drifters no matter how like positively you can impact them. And the thing is, the only way you can get the majority of them to stay is you hit that dopamine response in their brain, that reward center. So when they do something, you're like, hey, good job. That was so good. Like, I'm so proud of you. You did good today. And they go, ooh, dopamine. That felt good. He complimented me. Thank you. God, oh, yeah. And they get that dopamine. And you got to keep slapping that dopamine button on them. Like, wow, you did great. Oh, you did good on that one. They're like, ooh, dopamine. And so next week, they're like, I want to go back. I get my dopamine. Like, I get complimented. Like, I feel good. That's just how it works. It's like people struggle to keep, personal training clients on. And the reason being is they don't get them addicted. And that's the reality of it. It's like you have to get them addicted to the gym before they actually get that like real high. Because let's be honest, when you get to the point where you're lifting really, really heavy, or you're doing something incredibly difficult, that's not till way later. And that high is completely different. Because once you reach that high, you're like, I know why I'm staying. But in the beginning, most people fall out is because there's nothing they're really addicted to. They go, they try it, and they're like, that fucking hurt. I don't see any results. I'm not going back. Whereas, like, if you hit that dopamine button, you surround them in people or somebody else that's like, hey, dude, you're doing a good job. Oh, they're like, ooh, dopamine. I want to come back. It's the same thing. Gotta get them addicted to the good shit, man.
I mean, there's definitely an art to it, but sadly, like in my month or two I've been training, I haven't had one person come back a second time.
Really?
And it's extremely, I mean, don't get me wrong, I know there's stuff I could better in, but I'm really trying, and I give them all that positive and say, man, like, you did really good, I'd love to see you again. And I give them all this stuff. But I mean, in all honesty, those people, they go back and they go home, and the time comes that they're going to go to the gym and they're probably engaging in another addicting thing. And are they going to leave that addiction to go lift some weights? I think it's a really hard decision to make. I think it has to go down to their big ambition. Their true motivation is just like, what's their reasoning for going to the gym? Because if it's not a big enough reason to get them to jump from this addiction to that addiction, then I don't think it will make it. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. It's personal trainer. I never realized how, I mean, don't get me wrong, in the moment, extremely fulfilling. Awesome. I love it. Like helping out that person. But when that person bails on their next session and you never see them again, it's hard. It's just like, come on, dude. Like you had so much potential. Come on. But it's just, it's the fact of the matter. That's what the battle we live in nowadays.
It's the drifters' world, man. A lot of them will be drifters. A lot of them won't come back. And I've talked to a lot of personal trainers about this. They're like, dude, the majority of my clients, I'll see them once or twice and then they're gone. It's like no matter how much like I try and help, it's like, well, you can do everything you can, but when the time comes, if they're sitting down and eating a pizza and they completely forgot that they're supposed to be at the gym with you, you think they're going to choose to go to the gym or are they going to finish that pizza? Like,
Exactly.
let's be honest, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that kind of dopamine.
We got good competition.
If it's a donut, man. If it's, some nice pancakes and syrup. It's hard to beat that addiction. It's hard to be like, hey, yeah, come and lift. They're like, yeah, fuck you, dude.
I know if it was between me and a Costco pizza or Costco muffin, I know what would win with you.
I choose the muffin.
I know.
Well, shoot, dude. Let's go over our goals, man. So, what was your goal last week?
It was one of the big topics that we're talking about, influence.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I've been working on it. Like I said, I complimented the guy yesterday, so that was cool. Got to know him. Probably say hi to him again. And I will definitely want to do that with more people. I actually, when I meet someone, I get their name, I'll put it in my note, and I'll put a little note next to it saying, like, I like next to this guy, I think I have him as a squat guy or something, just to remind me of who they are because my memory sucks. But literally, I'm going to continue with that. And my goal for the future is I'm going to start throwing down ideas in this book I want to write on a blueprint for helping me achieve better social influence. So that's going to be my goal, continuing with this challenge of mine, this life goal, this personal legend.
I like it. The personal legend.
Yeah, it's been nagging at me. I gotta tackle this. So
I like it. Over the last week, when it comes to positive impact over other people's lives, how many days would you say that you like went out of your way to make a positive impact out of 7 days? Because it's hard to reach out to like those people, like, hey, good job on that 500 pounds. Because could we throw a number to like going for the next week, days wise?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd like every day, I'd like to at least, one person or something to give them a compliment or something in the regards of making a big impact. But I don't want to overshoot myself. So, and it's hard. It's a hard thing to measure. It's just like, because I have a bunch of friends that I'll say, hey, hit me up when you go to the gym. I'll come hang out. I'll give you some tips. And I just like being in the gym and stuff. And so they'll text me and I'll go and I'll help them. And that's definitely a positive impact. And so it's like it's a hard thing to measure unless you're really specific. But in terms of maybe talking to a new person or in like getting to know them, I definitely could probably set a number to that. So I'll go for like three times this week. I want to meet a new person, compliment them, or make a positive impact to a new person. I'll do that.
I like it. I like it. Okay. What was mine? Yes. Psychology of Money, that book. I finished it. Was that the goal? That was the goal. Yes. Was that the goal? I think so.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So finish that book, finish that one, as well as finish the 48 Laws of Power. Ah, shit, I should choose a new book. I haven't even thought about that. I have a couple. I'm going to read Turning Pro this week by Stephen Pressfield. I read it last year and I loved it. So that'll be my goal this week. Just read that book. Training wise, everything's great. It's kind of funny. Like the times I'm like making a positive impact in the gym and like talking to a bunch of people and like whatnot, like things are good. Now I'm not like talking to anybody. I'm just like training in silence. And like you're like out there making like positive impact. I'm like, why do we do this? Why do we oscillate like this?
Only one of us could hold the torch.
I know. It's so funny. I haven't talked to anybody in like weeks. I've just kept it super silent. But I'm just going to focus on that. Just read that book, Turning Pro, just to get my brain like really wired, dialed in on like the different projects that I want to keep working on. So that'll be mine. Turning Pro, Stephen Pressfield. All right. That
Sweet.
concludes episode. I don't even know, dude. Too many.
Dude, are we on
7?
27? Give me a
27.
second, I'll look. Yeah, 27.
Episode 27. 2 minutes to life. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.